Sure. Hello, members. So the purpose of this report is for giving you an opportunity to provide feedback to the governing body on how names essentially should be arranged on the voting documents for the elections next year. This is a report that comes every 3 years for direction from local boards for the governing body to make a decision. There are 3 options that are included in the report. One is alphabetical order by surname. The other is pseudo-random order or random order. A couple of things to keep in mind. So the staff recommendation is to continue with the alphabetical order of surname. That is the process that Auckland Council in particular has put in place since 2010. The positive, or I suppose the benefit of the alphabetical order is that the supporting documentation that comes with your voting papers is also ordered in alphabetical order, and it can't be ordered in a random order or a pseudo-random order. So the view of staff is that it sort of prevents the confusion. If you're looking through your supporting information on the various candidates, you can refer directly back to the voting paper. Also, I thought what might be interesting, just so you're aware, there have been a number of local boards that have responded to this feedback already. I think there's been about 14 resolutions sent through at the moment, and I believe all of them so far have supported an alphabetical order, but that's not to say what else may come through. And then ultimately, this is a decision for the governing body.
Thank you, Trina. Glenda.
Thank you. I'm happy to move this when there's no questions, I guess. So I just thought I'd tell you that, Richard.
No, that's great.
And I'll talk to it at the same time, so I don't have to talk twice. So I think alphabetical order is the fairest as well, because people do have the documents in front of them, and also often leaflets that have come out, and I think it can be confusing. We have enough people voting in local government elections, and adding a complexion I think would make it harder. I know that people down the bottom of the alphabet might think this is a little unfair, and sometimes people up the top think this is the way to go, but I just think in terms of clarity for the voting public, this is the best of the options we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda. Julie, then Alex, then Graham.
I guess I've got a question for Trina, and also since we're now in the speaking to it phase, maybe I can sort of double up.
Well, we're not really in the speaking to it phase, but I don't mind people putting up some arguments so that, but we're not formally debating it. But go ahead, no, it's fine.
Okay, so I guess, well, maybe first I guess if, we know from the evidence that people whose names are at the top of the alphabet do better under an alphabetical thing. And therefore, I think if we're truly democratic, then we need to, if possible, move to a system that's fair. And I understand that the trade-off is maybe around clarity, because the booklet will be alphabetical and the voting form will no longer be if we change to a different system. And I guess that maybe even that could provide us some statistics. Is it the booklet being alphabetical that favours people with the last name of A, or is it the voting form and the order of that favours people with the last name of A? But I guess my question is that now that we've gotten rid of health boards, there's no longer that first past the post, STV thing going on with the voting sheets, which I think removes what was there previously. So given that there has been added clarity, would it not therefore, and this is sort of I guess, Trina, I'm just sort of looking for you to weigh up the relative pros and cons of confusion versus democratic fairness, given that we have removed confusion in other ways?
It's a bit of a hypothetical question, Julie, so I'm not going to respond to that directly. But what I will mention is that In terms of the analysis of determining whether there is a level of biasm or, more people are likely to tick the top people versus the bottom, there is a very small amount of evidence that shows there is a level of biasm, but the key thing is a lot of that evidence is from overseas. And some of the advice that I have been provided and given is that overseas, in particular where it has been seen, is when those people are entering into ballot boxes in person, making their vote versus a postal vote where they've got more time to consider the documentation that's in front of them. So what it has shown for those that have gone into a voting box process where they are feeling a little bit more under pressure to make a decision, that evidence from overseas has shown a small level of biasm towards those at the top, but it's not as evident in New Zealand where that is not the case and it's a postal.
Thank you, Alex. And then Corinne.
So, yeah, my question was about the booklets and how it would work out under all three scenarios.
So the booklet will remain in alphabetical order. So that would not change on the voting paper. And so that is one of the reasons why staff are recommending for alphabetical order so that it is in the same order as supporting documentation.
Thank you. And Corinne?
No, sorry, I'm happy for it to go on to Adriana. I'm okay.
Adriana?
Hi, Trina. I'm so sorry for asking you this question. What do you mean about the supported documentation not also being in random? Why can't both of them go through the same process?
To be honest, random order would be very hard to then work out individual. So, for instance, a random order is complete random mix-up of names on your voting paper. So when you receive your voting paper, it will be very random about which order you might be. But they do a mass printout of the supporting information. So there's no way that they could do a mass random order printout of candidate information, then align it to whichever voting paper you might have. So that's kind of what I mean. You could never match it.
Could I just clarify with that, Trina? You mean that all of the voter papers in a random situation would be different?
Yes.
Or
yes.
Yes. None of them will be the same because there are so many names.
Completely random.
Any other questions? If not, Glenda Fryer will move this. I've given notice if it fails, I'd move for pseudo-random order, and if that failed, then somebody could move for actual random order. But we'll see how we go. Graham?
Yes, sorry, I'd just like to foreshadow that for random.
Right, that's fine. Yep. So we'll see if we can get majority for something, but I think we'll start with what the staff have recommended, and Glenda got in really quickly and moved it. Do we have a seconder for Glenda's resolution? Not yet. Okay, that's fine. We can come back to it if they didn't get a majority. So I'll move for pseudo-random order. Is there a seconder for that? We've got to make a decision somewhere, and Graham then will move for random order. Okay, that's good, and that's been seconded. That's great. Okay, so Graham can speak to it.
Thank you. I think going around the table here, almost all of us, apart from Richard, in the first half of the alphabet for his surname. Look, it is
Julie perhaps as well.
Oh, Julie. Apologies, Julie. Random does seem fairer. Trina, you've talked about it doesn't show so much effect in New Zealand, but I just think people whose surname might be Zimbabwe or Zebra would really be missing out. We do need to try and make it fair on everyone. So I think random makes more sense.
Great. Adriana?
Thank you, Richard. I think me being Adriana Avendaño Christie, even though I haven't used my actual last name because it's hard for white folk to pronounce, would benefit from it being in an actual alphabetical order. But in the spirits of fairness, I am supporting Graham's motion. even though the supporting documents might still benefit my name at the beginning, I still reckon that everyone should have a chance to have their name at the top. So thank you.
Thank you. Alex?
Yeah, I support Adriana. I'm in the same boat as her, as an Alex Bonham, but it does seem fairer. And I think it might mean that people take slightly longer to choose, but then maybe that's not an awful thing. And I don't think it's so confusing that we'll put people off voting. So support Graham on this one.
Thank you. And I will also support it. As I put in my draft, it's not just what happens when the piece of paper is in the voters' hands. It's how the names get on the ballot paper. And when a group is selecting its candidates, gives about 2/3 of its thought to whether that person would be a particularly good member of the body to which they're elected, and about 1/3 weight to what is their chance of being elected. And with the perception that it makes a difference where you are in the alphabet, that gives a clear advantage to people early in the alphabet. I'm aware of, in decisions to stand for office, people really keen to get elected to a position, and they change their surname to a name early in the alphabet. And with the perception that they're likely to be advantaged if they're early in the alphabet. So it does affect things, and I think it's really important that we want bodies that are representative, and among various groups, the allocation of surnames varies. There are much more European surnames in the early part of the alphabet, for instance, than among some other ethnic groups. So I think in the instance of fairness, I'll be supporting this resolution. Are there any other speakers? Julie?
I was it's sort of a side point, but I feel like, Trina, there's not much evidence for New Zealand. I feel like that would be really easy to find out. And so if I get really bored one day, I might look at the last election results and see if there was more people early in the alphabet elected than should have been based on the list.
Well, I think that has been part of the report that we've got.
Can I just respond just quickly? It's not that there isn't any evidence analysis that's been done across New Zealand. The evidence is showing there's limited biasm. So there's little evidence to show that it actually creates a biasm. That's what I'm saying. So there's analysis done, but limited evidence.
Thank you. Corinne?
Sorry, Trina, you were saying that's based on international research rather than here in New Zealand as well, weren't you?
The biasm that has been shown has largely come from overseas. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Graham, in reply?
No, looking forward to all the turkeys voting for Christmas.
Okay, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour will say aye.
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 Contrary, no.
No,
Okay, that's carried. Do you want that recorded, Glenda?
don't bother.
Okay. Right, we'll now come to